Hello, Book 2, and welcome to our buddy read, our read aloud of Mr. Scarborough's Family by Anthony Trollope. This is the story of the title character, Mr. Scarborough, a wealthy landowner, who has decided to thwart the moneylenders to his older son, his heir, Montjoy Scarborough, by declaring to the world that Montjoy is illegitimate, and that Mr. Scarborough's plans to entail the property on him were illegal, and that Mr. Scarborough has now seen the light. I am not going to defraud my second son, Augustus, anymore. He is the legitimate heir, and my oldest son is not. I was going to let the whole world think that, but I'm not anymore. Well, Montjoy Scarborough, when he thought he was the heir to the property, Tretton Park, raised a huge amount of money on the prospects of his father's death, on the prospects of his inheriting the estate. Montjoy Scarborough is a gambling addict, a wastrel, and he has raised a huge amount of money from moneylenders in London. We've seen them already. We met them a couple of chapters ago. On post obits, on the promise of getting Tretton Park. And now he's not going to get it. And they are all out their money. They're all completely out of luck. But, excuse me, I think I'm going to sneeze. Augustus Scarborough, Montjoy's younger brother, an oily character, somehow urgently wants those post-obit notes, those debts, to be settled before their father dies. He doesn't like the idea of lawsuits. He doesn't like the idea of these men saying, well, regardless of what old Scarborough said, it's Montjoy Scarborough who's the heir to this property, and he owes us everything. So between him and the lawyer and Montjoy and Mr. Scarborough, they have contrived to pay off all of those creditors. So Tretton Park is now debt-free. But in the last chapter that we read, Montjoy Scarborough, who's back in London now, has revealed to his brother that he's been in correspondence with their father down at Tretton Park. Mr. Scarborough is too sick to move. He's too sick to come to London. He's been in correspondence with his father. His father has said, you should come here and live. You'll have all your meals. You'll have all the comfort of the place at Tretton Park. I guess the house there is rather nice. You can't gamble. You won't touch a card. I won't allow it. But other than that, you'll have everything you want. Augustus Scarborough, when he hears this, passes off his shock just a bit. But it had to be shocking. Why? Aside from financial settlements, which Montjoy can do with a signature, why would old Scarborough want to correspond with Montjoy Scarborough? Why would he want to do that? That was a bombshell, but in this next chapter, chapter 38, we get that correspondence. This is a chapter called The Scarborough Correspondence. It was, as Montjoy had said. The squire had written him a letter inviting him to Tretton and telling him that it would be best home for him till death should have put Tretton into the hands of others. So Mr. Scarborough is sick and dying, and he is told, Montjoy Scarborough, come and live here until I die, at which point the property is inherited by your brother. Maybe the implication being that Augustus would let him live there anyway? Augustus doesn't seem the type. Montjoy had thought the matter over, sitting in the easy chair in his brother's room, and had at last declined the invitation. As his letter was emblematic of the man, it may be well to give it to the reader. Trollope loves to give letters to readers. He loves correspondence in his book. My dear father, I don't think that it will suit me to go down to Tretton at present. I don't mind the cards, and I don't doubt that you would make it better than this place. But to tell the truth, I don't believe a word of what you have told the world about my mother, and some of these days I mean to have it out with Augustus. I shall not sit quietly by and see Tretton taken out of my mouth. Therefore, I think I had better not go to Tretton. Yours truly, Montjoy Scarborough. Montjoy is offended on behalf of Mrs. Scarborough, who of course is dead when this book starts. But all these shenanigans with Montjoy being illegitimate, the person they hurt most is her reputation, her posthumous reputation, and also that bit that Montjoy says about not minding, about not touching cards, is totally false. Addicts do mind, very much mind. But let's continue. This had not at all surprised the father, and had not in the least angered him. He rather liked his son for standing up for his mother, and was by no means offended at the expression of his son's incredulity. But what there was in the prospect of a future lawsuit to prevent his son from... What was there... Okay, let's take a deep breath, think of England, and start over. But what was there in the prospect of a future lawsuit to prevent his son coming to Tretton? It's not just me. That sentence is wrong. It was written at speed, but the words are in the wrong order. It's not but what was there, it's what was there but. And those are two different things. Anyway, let's see. There need be no word spoken as to the property. Tretton would be infinitely more comfortable than the rooms in Victoria Street, and he was aware that the hospitality at Victoria Street would not be given in an ungrudging spirit. So Mr. Scarborough knows that Montjoy is living on the sufferance of his brother, and that's no place to be. I shouldn't like it, said the old squire to himself as he lay quiet on his sofa. I shouldn't like it at all to be the humble guest of Augustus. Augustus would certainly say a nasty word or two. The old man knew his younger son well, and he had known, too, the character of his elder son. But he had not calculated enough on the change which must have been made by such a revelation as he, his father, had made to him. Montjoy had felt that all the world was against him, and that, as best he might, he would make use of all the world, excepting only his father, who of all the world was the falsest and most cruel. As for his brother, he would bleed his brother to the very last drop, without any compunction. Every bottle of champagne that came to the house was, to Montjoy's thinking, his own, bought with his money, and therefore fit to be enjoyed by him. As for his father, he doubted whether he could remain with his father without flying at his throat. The old man decidedly preferred his elder son of the two. He had found that Augustus could not bear success, and had first come to dislike him and then to hate him. But what had he not done for Augustus, and with what return? No doubt Augustus had, till the spring of this present year, been kept in the background, but no injury had come to him from that. His father, of his own good will, with infinite labor and successful ingenuity, had struggled to put him back in the place which had been taken from him. But it was taken from him by the father. That's why Augustus is bitter. Augustus might, not unnaturally, have expressed himself as angry. He had not yet done so, but had made himself persistently disagreeable, and had continued to show that he was waiting impatiently on his father's death. It had come to pass that at their last meeting he had hardly scrupled to tell his father that the world would be no world for him till his father had left it. This was the reward which the old man received for having struggled to provide handsomely and luxuriously for his son. But you were also going to disinherit him. He still made his son a sufficient allowance befitting the heir of a man of large property, but he had resolved never to see him again. It was true that he almost hated him and thoroughly despised him. You make him a large allowance, but Augustus has a living. He was a lawyer. Presumably he set some money aside. But since the departure and mysterious disappearance of his eldest son, his regard for the sinner had returned. He had become apparently a hopeless gambler. His debts had been paid and repaid. At last the squire had learned that Montjoy owed so much on post obits that the future payment of them was an impossibility. There was no way of saving him. To save the property, he must undo the doings of his early youth and prove that the elder son was illegitimate. He had still kept the proofs, and he did it. To the great disgust of Mr. Gray, that's Mr. Scarborough's lawyer, to the dismay of the creditors, to the incredulous wonder of Augustus, to almost the annihilation of Montjoy himself, he had done it. But there had been nothing in Montjoy's conduct which had in truth wounded him. Montjoy's voice had been dangerous, destructive. Vices had been dangerous, destructive, absolutely foolish, but not, to his father, a shame. No man could win much without dishonest practices, and fraud at cards would certainly be detected. But he did not on that account hate cards. There was no reason why Montjoy should not become to him as pleasant a companion as ever for the few days that might be left to him, if only he would come. So what is Mr. Scarborough thinking here? He's thinking only a cheater succeeds at gambling, and Montjoy has not succeeded at gambling. So his son has a kind of very roughshod honor. But when asked, he refused to come. When the squire received the letter above given, he was not in the least angry with his son, but simply determined, if possible, that he should be brought to Tretton. Montjoy's debts would now be paid, and something, if possible, should be done for him. He was so angry with Augustus that he would, if possible, revoke his last decision, but alas, that would be impossible. Sir William Broderick, that's the high-priced London doctor who comes to see Mr. Scarborough, had, when he last saw him, expressed some hope not of his recovery, which was by all admitted to be impossible, but of his continuance in the land of the living for another 3 months or perhaps 6. As Sir William had finally suggested, opening out, as he himself seemed to think, indefinite hope. "The most wonderful constitution, Mr. Scarborough, I ever saw in my life. I've never known a dog even so cut about and yet bear it." Mr. Scarborough bowed and smiled and accepted the compliment. He would have taken his hat off his head had it been his practice to wear a hat in his sitting room. Mr. Merton had gone further. That's his amanuensis, an assistant. Of course, he did not mean, he said, to set up his opinion against Sir William's, but if Mr. Scarborough would live strictly by rule, Mr. Merton did not see why either 3 months or 6 months should be the end of it. Mr. Scarborough had replied that he could not undertake to live precisely by rule, and Mr. Merton had shaken his head. But from that time forth, Mr. Scarborough did endeavor to obey the injunctions given to him. He had something worth doing in the 6 months now offered to him. He had heard lately very much of the story of Harry Annesley, and had expressed great anger at the ill usage to which that young man had been subjected. It had come to his ears that it was intended that Harry should lose his property as expected, and that he had already lost his immediate income. We know this is true, and we know why. The why is Augustus Scarborough, who has been spreading horrible rumors about Harry Annesley, including to his uncle, the man who was the font of all of his future prospects. This had come to him through Mr. Merton, between whom and Augustus Scarborough there was no close friendship, and the squire understood that Florence Mountjoy had been the cause of Harry's misfortune. He himself recognized it as a fact that his son Mountjoy was unfit to marry any young lady. Mountjoy had originally been intending to marry Florence Mountjoy. Starvation would assuredly stare such a young lady in the face. But not the less was he acerbated and disgusted at the idea that Augustus should endeavor to take the young lady to himself. "What?" he had exclaimed to Mr. Merton. "He wants both the property and the girl? There's nothing on earth he does not want. The greater the impropriety in his craving, the stronger the craving." Then he picked up by degrees all the details of the midnight feud between Harry and Mountjoy, and set himself to work to undermine Augustus. But he had steadily carried out the plan for settling with the creditors, and, with the aid of Mr. Grey, had, as he thought, already concluded that business. Conjunction with Augustus had been necessary, and that had been obtained. He needed the help of both his sons to clear the property of debt, but that has now happened. It is not too much to say that, at the present moment in his life, the idea of doing some injury to Augustus was the one subject which exercised Mr. Scarborough's mind. I like this guy. He knows why to hang around. Since he had fallen into business relations with his younger son, he had become convinced that a more detestable young man did not exist. The reader will perhaps agree with Mr. Scarborough, but it can hardly be hoped that he should entertain the opinion as strongly. Augustus was now the recognized eldest legitimate son of the squire, and as the property was entailed, it must no doubt belong to him. But the squire was turning in his mind all means of depriving that condition as far as possible of its glory. When he had first heard of the injury that had been done to Harry Annesley, he thought that he would leave our hero all the furniture, all the gems, all the books, all the wine, all the cattle which were accumulated at Tretton. Augustus should have the bare acres, and still barer house, but nothing else. In thinking of this, he had been actuated by a conviction that it would be useless for him to leave them to Mountjoy. Don't leave anything to Mountjoy, is his idea. It will go. He's a gambling addict. Whatever might be left to Mountjoy would in fact be left to creditors. Therefore, Harry Annesley, with his injuries, had been felt to be a proper recipient, not of the squire's bounty, but of the results of his hatred for his son. To run counter to the law. That had ever been the chief object of the squire's ambition, to arrange everything so that it should be seen that he had set all laws at defiance. That had been his great pride. He had done so notably and with astonishing astuteness in reference to his wife and 2 sons, but now there had come up a condition of things in which he could again show his cleverness. Augustus had been most anxious to get up all the post-obit bonds which the creditors held, feeling, as his father well understood, that he would thus prevent them from making any further inquiry when the squire should have died. That's why Augustus wants to get this done before the squire dies. Why should they stir in the matter by going to law when there would be nothing to be gained? Those bonds had now been redeemed, and were in the possession of Mr. Grey. They had been bought up nominally by himself, and must be given to him. Mr. Grey, at any rate, would have the proof that they had been satisfied. They could not be used again to gratify any spite that Augustus might entertain. The captain, therefore, could now enjoy any property which might be left to him. Of course, it would all go to the gaming table. It might even yet be better to leave it to Harry Ainsley. The blood was thicker than water, though it were but the blood of a bastard. So he can't bring himself to leave everything to Harry Ainsley, even though Harry is of the three the most worthy. He would do a good turn for Harry in another way. All the furniture and all the gems and all the money should again be the future property of Montjoy. It's technically allowed. By the law of entail, it's technically allowed. But in order that this might be effected before he died, he must not let the grass grow under his feet. He thought of the promised 3 months, with a possible extension to 6, as suggested by Sir William. Sir William says 3 months, he said to Mr. Merton, speaking in the easiest way of possibility of his living. He said 6. Yeah, that is if I do what I'm told, but I shall not exactly do that. 3 or 6 will be all the same, only for a little bit of business I want to get through. Sir William's orders would include the abandonment of my business. The less done, the better. Then I do not see why Sir William should limit you to 6 months. I think that 3 will nearly suffice. A man does not want to die, I suppose, said Mr. Burton. There are various ways of looking at that question, replied the squire. Many men desire the prolongation of life as a lengthened period of enjoyment. There is perhaps something of that feeling with me. But when you see how far I am crippled and curtailed, how my enjoyments are confined to breathing the air, to eating and drinking, and to the occasional reading of a few pages, you must admit there cannot be much of that. I might point out, that's all I do. Mr. Montjoy is describing my life and saying, that's not worth living. I might as well die. The conversation with you is the best of it. Some want to live for the sake of their wives and children. In the ordinary acceptance of the words, that is all over with me. Many desire to live because they fear to die. There is nothing of that in me, I can assure you. I am not afraid to meet my Creator. But there are those who wish for life that their purposes of love and stronger purposes of hatred may be accomplished. I am among the number. But on that account, I only wish it till those purposes have been completed. I think I'll go to sleep for an hour, but there are a couple of letters I want you to write before post time. Then Mr. Scarborough turned himself round and thought on the letters he was to write. Mr. Merton went out, and as he wandered about the park in the dirt and slush of December, tried to make up his mind whether he most admired his patron's philosophy or condemned his general lack of principle. Where do you stand? When you hear all those different reasons that people want to go on living, which one are you? Do you want just to continue your enjoyment? Do you want to work harm on people? Do you cling to life out of fear? I don't fear being dead, of course, because being dead is nothing. I don't fear standing in front of my Creator because I didn't have a Creator. There are no goblins. I fear the process of dying. I think anybody with a right mind would fear the way they're going to die, but not the rest of it. No. At the proper hour he appeared again, and found Mr. Scarborough quite alert. I don't know whether I shall have the 3 months unless I behave better, he said. I have been thinking about those letters, and very nearly made an attempt to write them. There are things about a son which a father doesn't wish to communicate to anyone. Merton only shook his head. I'm not a bit afraid of you, nor do I care for your knowing what I have to say, but there are words which it would be difficult even to write, and almost impossible to dictate. But he did make the attempt, though he did not find himself able to say all that he intended. The first letter was to the lawyer. So these are the correspondence of Mr. Scarborough, and they are dictated to Mr. Merton. My dear Mr. Gray, you will be surprised at my writing to summon you once again to my bedside. He's already done that once, and Mr. Gray very reluctantly went. I think there was some kind of promise made that the request should not be repeated, but the circumstances are of such a nature that I do not well know how to avoid it. However, if you refuse to come, I will give you my instructions. It is to my purpose to make another will, and to leave everything that I am capable of leaving to my son Montjoy. You are aware that he is now free from debt and capable of enjoying any property that he may possess. As circumstances are at present, he would on my death be absolutely penniless, and heaven help the man who should find himself dependent on the mercies of Augustus Scarborough. What I propose would be the balance at the bank, the house in town, and everything contained in and about Tretton, as to which I should wish that should be very explicit in making it understood that every conceivable item of property is to belong to Montjoy. I know the strength of an entail, and not for worlds would I venture to meddle with anything so holy. There came a grin of satisfaction over his face as he uttered these words, and his scribe was utterly unable to keep from laughing. But as Augustus must have the acres, let him have them bare. Underscore that word, if you please, and the word was underscored. If I had time, I would have every tree about the place cut down. I don't think you could do that under the entail, said Merton. I would use up every stick in the building of the farmers' barns and mending the farmers' gates, and I would cover an acre just in front of the house with a huge conservatory. I respect the law, my boy, and they would find it difficult to prove that I had gone beyond it. But there is no time for that kind of finished revenge. In other words, he figures he can get around the entail by cutting down all the trees and using them for the tenant's property. Maybe. There's no time to do it. It's a huge thing. Then he went on with his letter. You will understand what I mean. I wish to divide my property so that Montjoy may have everything that is not strictly entailed. You will, of course, say that I will all go to the gambling table. It may go to the devil, so far as Augustus does not have it. But it need not go to the gambling table. If you would consent to come down to me once more, we might possibly devise some scheme for saving it. But whether we can do so or not, it is my request that my last will be prepared in accordance with these instructions. Yours very faithfully, John Scarborough. And now for the other, said Mr. Scarborough. Had you not better rest a bit? Said Mr. Merton. No, this is the kind of work at which a man does not want to rest. He is carried on by his own solicitudes and his own eagerness. This will be very short, and when it is done, then perhaps I may sleep. And the second letter is to Montjoy. My dear Montjoy, I think you are foolish in allowing yourself to be prevented from coming here by any sentiment. But in truth, independently of the pleasure I should derive from your company, I wish you to be here on a matter of business, which is of some importance to yourself. I am about to make a new will. And although I am bound to pay every respect to the entail, it would not for worlds do anything in opposition to the law, still I may be enabled to do something for your benefit. Your brother has kindly interfered with the payment of your creditors, and as all outstanding bonds have now been redeemed, you would now, by my generosity, be enabled to enjoy any property which might be left to you. There are a few tables and chairs at my disposal, and a gem or two, and some odd volumes which perhaps you would like to possess. I have written to Mr. Gray on the subject, and I would wish you to see him. This you might do whether you come here or not. But I do not the less wish that you should come. Your affectionate father, John Scarborough. I think that the odd volumes will fetch him. He always was fond of literature. I suppose it means the entire library, replied Merton. And he likes tables and chairs. I think he will come and look after the tables and chairs. Why not beds and washstands? Said Mr. Merton. Well, yes, he may have the beds and washstands. Montjoy is not a fool, and will understand very well what I mean. And what he means is, you can sell these things. I wonder whether I could scrape the paper off the dining room walls and leave the scraps to his brother, without interfering with the entail. But now I am tired and will rest. But he did not even then go to rest, but lay still scheming about the property. There was now another letter to be written, for the writing of which he would not again summon Mr. Merton. He was half ashamed to do so, and at last sent for his sister. Martha, he said, I want you to write a letter for me. Mr. Merton has been writing letters for you all morning. That's just the reason why you should write the one now. I am still in some slight degree afraid of his authority, and I'm not at all afraid of yours. You ought to be quiet, John. Indeed, you ought. And in order that I may be quiet, you must write this letter. It's nothing particular, or I should not have asked you to do it. It is only an invitation. An invitation to ask somebody here? Yes, to ask somebody to come here. I don't know whether he'll come. Do I know him? I hope you may. If he comes, he's a very good-looking young man, if that's anything. Don't talk nonsense, John. But I believe he's engaged to a young lady, with whom I must beg you not to interfere. You remember Florence? Florence Montjoy? Of course I remember my own niece. The young man is engaged to her. She was intended for poor Montjoy. Poor Montjoy has put himself beyond possibility of a wife. Poor Montjoy. The soft-hearted aunt was almost in tears. But we haven't to do with Montjoy now. Sit down there and begin. Dear Mr. Annesley. Oh, it's Mr. Annesley, is it? Yes, it is. Mr. Annesley is the handsome young man. Have you any other objection? Only people do say... What do they say? Of course I don't know. I've only heard that he's a scoundrel. Scoundrel is a very strong word, said the old lady, shocked. A villain, a liar, a thief, and all the rest of it. That's what you've heard, and I'll tell you who has been your informant. Either first or second hand it has come to you from Mr. Augustus Scarborough. Now, we'll begin again. Dear Mr. Annesley. The old lady paused a moment, and then, settling herself firmly to task, commenced and finished the letter as follows. Dear Mr. Annesley, you spent a few days here on one occasion, and I want to renew the pleasure with which your visit gave me. Will you extend your kindness so far as to come to Tretton for any time you may please to name beyond 2 or 3 days? I am sorry to say that your friend Augustus Scarborough cannot be here to meet you. My other son, Montjoy, may be here. If you wish to escape him, I shall endeavor to fix the time when I shall have heard from you. But I think there need be no ill blood there. Neither of you did anything of which you are probably ashamed, though as an old man I am bound to express my disapproval. Imagine the two of them meeting. Surely you must be ashamed. Surely he must be ashamed, said Miss Scarborough, who's heard the story of him beating Captain Scarborough and leaving him unconscious on the pavement. Surely he must be ashamed of that. Never you mind. Believe me, you know nothing about it. Then he went on with his letter. But it is not merely for the pleasure of your society that I ask you. I have a word to say to you which may be important. Yours faithfully, John Scarborough. And that ends the chapter. Mr. Scarborough, our favorite character, is making trouble. He's not done yet. His doctors have told him you have 3 months to live, and he's saying, that might be long enough. I've got other things to do. He's going to make a new will. He's inviting both Montjoy and Harry Annesley to Tretton. And he's planning to not break the entail, but certainly bend it. The entail says that Augustus Scarborough will get Tretton Park. Okay, you get the house and you get the grounds. But what about everything else? All the cattle, all the equipment, all the trappings of the house, which is just an empty house. All the furniture, all the jewels, all the books, everything. What if all that goes to somebody else? There's a townhouse in London. Is that part of the entail? All the furniture in the townhouse and everything else. So this is the price that Augustus Scarborough is paying for making everyone's flesh creep. It's like even his own father can't stand him. So things are cooking again, and we'll move on next time. We'll find out all these letters have been sent out to these different people. We'll see what they make of them. So I'll wrap this up for now, and I will see you then. Thank you, BookTube.